Bombshell tonight in the Nolan Wells investigation. A mystery altercation emerges. And not with the guys that took him to the island on the boat. Does this change things? We cannot ignore it. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
If people are sending in videos, they should be using those videos to conduct further investigation.
There is a group of people fighting at 5 p.m. Who are they? Where was he? He wasn't floating in the water. He wasn't on the shore. Tonight, evidence of a so-called mystery altercation is emerging. Straight out to Crime Stories investigative reporter Dave Mack. Dave, what can you tell me first about this so-called mystery altercation? And this is not with the men that went to Horn Island on the boat. You know what? Let me just be clear. Crime Stories is not a symposium, a gathering place for a witch hunt. We want the truth about what happened to Nolan Wells. We are here to convict no one yet. And if evidence of a mystery altercation with other young men arises, we are pursuing it. Dave Mack, what do we know about some mystery altercation? We think after the Triton left Horn Island.
Nancy, this is a mystery altercation that is being described through social media as something that took place around 5 p.m. that day. This is 30 minutes after the Triton already left. And in this particular account, a Bertram boat was seen leaving shortly afterward at a high rate of speed. Now, this social media conversation claims that a person, one of the passengers, pretty certain Nolan Wells, was part of a group that was, quote, almost fighting around 5 p.m.
Bip, 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 bip. Whoa, wait. Hold on, Nellie. Did you say 5 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I jumped in, Dave Mack, is because 5 p.m., if Nolan was seen in an altercation at 5 p.m. on Horn Island, that's after the Triton, had already left. Let's see the boat, control room. We're talking about the boat leaving Horn Island. That boat. Had that boat already left when this altercation occurred? Dave Mack, that's a yes, no.
Yes.
Listen.
But the person said in the DM to another kid that is associated, not any of the kids that I interviewed or talked to, but that could be associated to some degree, that knew Nolan, that this person wrote a message saying, me and my husband saw you arguing with Nolan, and to the effect of you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. Nolan and another person that he may have been in an argument with, to me, are people that need to be investigated.
Guys, let me first introduce Cheryl McCollum, Cold-Case Investigative Research Institute founder. Let that sink in at coldcasecrimes.org. She's a star of a hit podcast that I have listened to on loop, by the way, Cheryl McCollum. And I don't like much of what you're saying, yet I keep listening. Zone 7, she's author of a brand new book, Swans Don't Swim in a Sewer, solving the cold case of the Flint River Killer's daughter, and more. But for my purposes tonight, she's a forensics expert. Greg Morse, before I even get to the merits of this, where I meant to go with this is everyone has been focusing on the young men that were on the boat that took him to Horn Island. Then we get this audio that we're trying to corroborate, where seemingly in the background you hear them talking about trying to revive Nolan Wells on the boat. Is that even real? We don't know yet. Or has it been doctored? Trying to find out. I've got experts telling me, renowned experts, by the way, it's real. And renowned experts saying it's not real. It's just like a trial, right? Where it's expert v. expert. Who's telling the truth?
Sure.
I wanted to talk about this mystery altercation. If it happened at 5 p.m., that boat was already gone. Now, as much as some people want to hang the young guys on the boat, I want to make sure we hang the right person. If there is a mystery altercation after that boat lift, we need to be investigating that altercation.
Well, you're 100% right, because the three young men that are, at least the people are saying, are involved in this, that went there with Nolan Wells, there's a specific timeline from what I read. They needed assistance on their boat. They left at 4:30. They had called
gave me
CTO.
a chill down my spine. You
So
can't
if there
introduce
is-
something because people say, I don't care what people say on either side.
No.
They mean nothing to me. What?
Nancy, that's the problem when we have things like podcasts today and people who are not qualified to talk about serious things like this. They're not experts. They want to get likes. Law enforcement is going to keep information close to the best.
He saw the DMs. I don't have
Okay,
a
so what does that
reason
mean?
to think
that's
he
not
didn't
legitimate.
see the DMs. Now, many people are arguing that he has taken a side. We have not taken a side. I'm on the side of finding out why everybody got back to the mainland except Nolan Wells.
Well,
And
listen,
nobody
these
saw
are
anything.
teenagers.
Nobody knows anything. It's just like Tupac Shakur got shot on the Strip
Nancy,
at Vegas, and we still don't know what happened. Nobody saw a thing. That's BS.
These are young men hanging out. It's not unusual one may stay behind to hang out with other people. None of that is unusual for teenagers partying and having a good time. So that fact alone doesn't mean anything. What?
Where's your cell phone? Where is your cell phone? And try not to lie. Where's your cell phone?
Okay. Right here.
Oh, really? Because here's mine. So you want to tell me Nolan Wells stayed behind and his cell phone went without him? I understand. Don't everybody start screaming that he didn't want to get it wet. Of course he didn't want to get it wet. But there's ways around that. You can go put it on shore in your shoe like everybody else does to hide it from people and then retrieve it when you go. But no, he let the boat leave with his phone. I agree with his mother on that. That is not Nolan Wells. He was never away from his phone.
So that doesn't mean anything in and of itself with what's coming out about this. You know, you're talking about him staying behind. You're talking about there's evidence that he was there after 4:30 p.m. If he's there after 4:30 p.m., Nolan Wells on that island hanging out with other people, that's it. The fact that a cell phone is on a boat and he's not as a teenager doesn't really mean anything at all.
Okay, you know what? I asked you about a mystery altercation, and should we be looking in that direction right now? And you're like going on and on about the cell phone.
No, but
everybody
that's
that
my
owns
point.
a cell phone, which is everyone, knows you never
Nancy,
leave
that's
without
my
your cell
point.
phone.
You have to look at what really happened. If there was this mystery altercation, then yes, the police need to be investigating that. They need to be looking into that.
Hi guys, Nancy Grace here. If you are a homeowner, you've probably thought, should I call American Financing to refinance and pay off this debt? But you don't because of your low mortgage rate. That low rate, it's not saving you if you're drowning in credit card interest. People are calling American Financing, and American Financing is saving customers an average of $800. That's not in all, that's a month, by using their equity to pay off the credit card debt. Using their home equity to pay off credit card debt. No upfront fees. It costs you nothing to find out what you could be saving. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. American Financing, 866-888-0344. Repeat, 866-888-0344. Or just go online to americanfinancing.net/Nancy. Disclaimer, NMLS 182334, nmlsconsumeraccess.org. APR for rates in the 5S start at 6.327% for well-qualified borrowers. Call 866-888-0344 for details about credit costs and terms. Go to http:// www.americanfinancing.net/Nancy. Average savings are based on borrowers who save over $199.99. And good luck. You know what? Let's hear Tatum again. And hey, take it for what it's worth. Try to get the truth out of what we're hearing. Okay? Listen.
Nolan and another person that he may have been in an argument with, to me, are people that need to be investigated.
With that, I agree with Tatum. As much as we disagree on practically everything else, if this happened, and forget about the girl, I'm talking about the altercation. Cheryl McCollum, come on. He dies. Nobody sees him. The others get back safely. Now we're hearing about an altercation afterwards. And I'm not ruling out that he was on that boat when they left. But now I'm hearing about an altercation. When you can't tell the truth of what's happening, look at who was angry. Look if there was an altercation. I don't know what happened, but when I hear altercation after the Triton left, I've got to go there.
You got to look at it. You absolutely cannot ignore it. But one thing we already know from the second autopsy, they would have mentioned if he had any type of injury to his knuckles, if he had been in a fight. We didn't hear anything about abrasions or bruising or any type of injury that would be indicative of somebody that is a college football player fighting somebody.
Okay, now I have just told everybody that you're a forensic expert. It's starting to taste like a dirt sandwich. Because, okay, I'm going to let you sit in the corner and think about what you just said. Joe Scott Morgan joining me, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University, author of Blood Beneath My Feet on Amazon, star of a hit series, Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan. He is a death investigator with over 10,000 death scenes under his belt, deaths of all genre. Joe Scott Morgan, let's refresh Cheryl McCollum's recollection. That's what you say in court when obviously the witness is gone off the rails. Your Honor, pause, Your Honor, objection. May I refresh the witness's recollection? In other words, get it together. Don't you remember what we just talked about before you got on the stand and you give them a piece of paper and go, can we see that the drawings on the autopsy control room? Joe Scott, there's a big, thank you. There's a big honking mark, subcutaneous, deep reddening tissue on his occipital. If I hit somebody in the back of the head, it'd be right there. We don't know what that is.
No, we don't. But to Cheryl's point, she's accurate. And here's why. Because in forensics, it's not just about positive findings. It's also about negative findings, those things that we are absent. So in that report, as she had mentioned, there was no indication that there was any kind of contusions on the hand, the arm, no kind of defensive event like a parry with a forearm, scuffing of the knuckles, that sort of thing. This forensic pathologist that did the second assessment didn't see any evidence of that. And so that's the first place I'm going to go to, aside from not having the actual primary autopsy report that has not been released yet. But you've got an individual that has, in fact, been retained by the family that's making this assessment. And it's a pretty damn thorough assessment, as a matter of fact, based upon many of them that I've read over the years. You don't see any kind of insults to the arms, the hands, anything like this. The one thing about that thing in the back, this focal area that they're talking about is, and I come back to this all the time, Nancy, is that his body Nolan's body is in such a state of decomposition to this point that he cannot make a definitive assessment on that area. And he did a multi-layered dissection, which, by the way, according to him, had not been done by the state medical examiner's office in Mississippi. He just went about it a different way. And as a matter of fact, if you like that one, I got another one. The examination that this physician in DC did on Nolan's remains ranks right up there with the most thorough, hear me talking, the most thorough dissection that you can possibly do on human remains. It's the same one that we do on bodies that have died, individuals that have died that have been incarcerated, in custody deaths. You know what all that means: in the back of a cruiser, in a holding cell, in a prison. Those autopsies rank right up there with the most thorough that we can go. It's a very deep dive that they did on his body.
Joe Scott, you are stating that due to the level of decomposition in Nolan Wells' body, that you can't really figure out why his occipital bone area had deep reddening, and that was seen nowhere else in the body. That's because of decomposition. Isn't that true?
Well, it's true in the sense that that's what
Didn't
the
you just say that?
I'm repeating what the physician said in his autopsy report. I didn't do the examination.
So then that would be a yes. So at that level of decomp that you're claiming could obscure the nature of the deep reddening on his occipital area, but yet on the other side of your mouth, you are claiming that even with this intense decomposition, you didn't see evidence of any reddening on his knuckles or any indication of a fight. So you want it two ways. You want to say, decomp, can't tell what that was on the back of his head, but even though he's highly decomposed, I can tell you, he didn't have any reddening on his knuckles. Really?
No.
Because I see a problem with that.
Okay, you've skinned your knee before, right? Okay. If you have an abrasion, that's completely different than a contusion. That means you have scraping and the tearing away of the skin. That's something that's very obvious. And guess what? I've been in enough fist fights in my life that I know
reddening.
what scraping. Right, I know, and you're misstating that because it's not a matter of reddening. When we look at hands, we also look at contact points where people are being abraded as a result of scuffing their hands. That's different than a color discoloration. We're talking about the top layer, the epidermis down to the dermis is being scraped away. He doesn't see any evidence of that in his autopsy.
I'm not talking about a scrape. I'm talking about if he had, for instance, reddening from a welt, the beginnings of a bruise. With that level of decomp, you're telling me you could still make that out?
No, those two things cannot exist in the same universe. You have to have an abraded area, and there would be multiple of them on his hands if he is punching or trying to defend himself. And yes, we can make out bruises. Yeah, we can make out bruises.
You don't always have to have scrapes on your hand when you throw a punch. You don't always have to have cuts on your hand when you throw a punch. That's not true.
Well, that sounds mighty convenient if that's the road you want to go down, because I've seen them many times.
That's what I'm telling you. What you're saying is mighty darn convenient. That the reddening on the back of his head, can't really tell anything because he's so decomposed, but you can see his hands well enough to know he was not in a fist fight. Yeah,
right.
That's convenient, Joe Scott. Look, I'm not trying to convict anybody. I'm trying to find the truth. I'm trying to find out if this evidence of an altercation really happened. And to further muddy the waters, now we have more witnesses stating what they saw.
Another report came to me of someone saying that they saw Nolan with a girl, and they believe that they saw Nolan and this girl struggling in the water. Not necessarily drowning, but struggling. Like it was obvious enough that the person was concerned when they saw Nolan in the water and he was with this girl.
You know, that's from Officer Tatum's show. Cheryl McCollum, it seems to me that that's not true. Because don't you think if a witness saw one or two people, quote, struggling in the water, I mean, I would try to help them.
It makes no sense.
And they
That
did
wouldn't
nothing?
be, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. That wouldn't be their focal, that they would pay attention to those two people that are struggling to see, is one going under and not resurfacing? What can we do to help? The idea that they would watch that, see a struggle, and then what? Turn back and finish barbecuing? That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Not at all. So this is a problem, Greg Morse. You're a veteran trial lawyer. We're getting so much information, and a lot of it is inconsistent. And that is why you have cross-examination. So you can test the evidence. Test whether it's true under the fire of cross-exam. When you have conflicting stories like this, my instinct is to go with the one that makes the most sense. What do you make of these claims that Nolan was struggling in the water? I really believe if he had been, quote, struggling in the water, that either she or her friends would have come forward by now. I mean, what about these guys on the boat that had already left? Don't they want to save them? I mean,
Well,
I'm just trying to find out what happened to Nolan. And if this is true, it may place him on the island after they left.
Well, that's it, and that's what the police are doing. Is they're going to run these leads down, and they're going to try to verify what's credible and what's not before they go to a grand jury. They're going to exclude information that they think is completely uncredible. However, all of this information, if people are arrested at some point in the future and charged with a crime for Nolan Wells' death, then all of these conflicting stories, all of these different timelines, they become a conflict in the evidence. And as you know, Nancy, there's three ways a jury can find reasonable doubt if this ever gets there. And one of those ways is in a conflict in the evidence. So these are all favorable things that would benefit a defendant or defendants down the road. However, there's a reason why law enforcement does investigations. Professionals do it, not podcasters talking about it. Verified sources, all of that is nonsense. The police are going to keep information to themselves. They're going to also keep information private so they can test statements that come from people and verify what they're saying based on factors that don't get released in the media. So clearly something happened after 4:30 when the Triton boat apparently left. And all of these things the police will find, they will discover. You know, the police can discover whose phones were active at the time in that whole area if they choose. May not be able to use it in court anymore after the recent Supreme Court decision a few weeks ago on cell site location information. However, it's an investigative tool that they can line up who's there. They can also line these things up by the boats. Right. And they're calling CETO and things like that. So these are all things the police are going to verify and shake out what they believe led to this young man's death.
I can get the GPS, Morse. I can get the GPS.
Yep.
I can get the cell phone data. I can get the tracking data. I can tell exactly what time the boat left. But I can tell the truth of that. But I can't tell the truth right now about these conflicting reports. Was he on the boat? His phone was on the boat. That's the whole point. He's traveling with his phone, then he's on the boat. They're saying, no, he wasn't on the boat. Now this altercation has arisen, evidence of that emerging after the boat left. Who's telling the truth? The mom, his mom says, no way would he have let the boat leave without his phone. Okay, that said, the mom is getting death threats. Nolan Wells' mother dealing with not only her son is gone, he's dead. The investigation going on. Now she's getting threats. Isn't it true, Susan Hendricks joining us, investigative journalist, author of Down the Hill, My Descent into the Double Murder in Delphi, that someone actually called for an investigation into Nolan Wells' mother? Isn't she a home health care nurse?
She is, and it was an anonymous call saying that she needed to be investigated. To me, it was outright backlash connected to what happened to her son. It's despicable considering everything she's already going through. Anonymous calls to say that she's not up to par and needs to be investigated. It's sickening.
Attention homeowners, Nancy Grace here. Scammers are using AI to steal from you. With forged paperwork and just a signature, they can claim control of your property on record. Then they take out loans against that property, or they even sell it for quick cash. Then they can borrow against your equity or even sell your property long before you realize anything's even wrong. And that is where Home Title Lock comes in. 24/7 monitoring, urgent alerts, a team of restoration experts that spend up to $1 million restoring your title if you're a victim. So when is the last time you checked your title? You can do it today and make sure you're not already a victim. Use our promo code Nancy, Nancy, at HomeTitleLock.com to get a free FREE title history report, plus a free trial of the $1 million triple lock protection. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Nancy. Good luck. So let me ask you this, Cheryl. How would you go about investigating this altercation, this alleged altercation that took place after the Triton left? Placing Nolan still at Horn Island.
Sure. I need their photo evidence if they have it. I need the eyewitnesses, the ear witnesses, who saw what, when did they see it, how can they prove it? So if they can tell me who was in the altercation with him, then we're going to bring them in if they haven't been brought in. If there's some type of something they've captured on video or a photograph, that would be great. If it's associated with a boat, does that boat have GPS? When did that boat leave? Where did they go? I want all of that. So, you take the totality. You don't just take one thing. But, you're not going to take somebody's word that just put something on the internet. Have they gone down and talked to law enforcement? Will they come down and swear to what they are saying? That's where you're going to start.
The investigation into the death of Nolan Wells is ongoing. If you know or think you know anything, don't hide under your bed. Dial 228-769-3063. Repeat, 228-769-3063. There is a $125,000 reward for information leading to the truth of what happened to Nolan Wells. We remember an American hero, Corrections Officer Anthony Brown, Nassau County Sheriff's, just 30, shot breaking up a fight, leaving behind his wife and 4 children without a dad. American hero, Officer Anthony Brown. Thank you to our guests, but especially to you for being with us tonight as we search for the truth in the death of a young man, Nolan Wells. Nancy Grace signing off for tonight, but I'll see you tomorrow night. And until then, good night, friend. Hi, guys. Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. And if you're on the go, please join us on your favorite podcast app where you can get all our content, where we, in our way, seek justice.
Was a vital clue buried beneath the CETO recording, or were listeners hearing meaning created by noise, enhancement, and expectation? As the emergency call was replayed, one fact carried greater weight. When the boat reached the mainland, Nolan Xavier Wells was already missing. This documentary examines an unexplained death, reported threats, and evidence that remains disputed. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to True Crime News Report. Subscribe, like, share, comment respectfully, and tell us where you are watching from. Here, allegations will never outrun evidence. Every conclusion must survive careful scrutiny. Nolan was 18 years old. His parents, Christine Wells Wansley and Elmore Wansley Sr., expected him home after the July 4th trip to Horn Island with people including Trayston Shepard, Warren Hudson, and Javon Williams. But Nolan did not return aboard the vessel linked to his group. Warren said another ride had been arranged. Katie McCormack reportedly believed Nolan had already left. His phone reached the mainland without him. Christine later reported him missing, and Nolan was recovered near Horn Island on July 6th. Sheriff John Ledbetter investigated, while coroner Bruce Lind confirmed his identity. Homicide had not been officially established. During the return journey, the vessel began taking on water, prompting a call for assistance. Bart Edmiston Jr. reportedly helped the distressed boat. Accounts described a problem involving the transom plug, a fitting that allows water to drain from the rear of a boat when handled. Bart Edmiston Sr. and attorney Russell Latino later addressed accusations directed at Bart Jr., who reportedly cooperated with investigators and supplied relevant material. He had not been publicly named as a suspect. His documented role concerns the emergency response. The call may explain the boat's difficulty, but it cannot independently establish Nolan's final movements. The confirmed portion of the CETO recording is straightforward. A caller reported that a boat was taking on water and requested help. The controversy lies in disputed background voices. No interpretation is authenticated. Forensic audio expert Jennifer Owen warned that reliable examination requires the original, least compressed file. Engines, wind, distance, overlapping speech, digital compression, repeated enhancement, and listener expectation can reshape what seems audible. Attorney Ben Crump announced that Nolan's family had obtained the complete recording and requested professional analysis. Clarification should reveal information already present. Alteration introduces sounds or emphasis not supported by the source. Any enhanced version must therefore be compared with the original recording. The audio drew public attention, but another completed report remained outside public view. Warren Hudson maintained that Nolan planned to leave with another ride. Katie McCormack reportedly understood that Nolan had already departed. Trayston Shepard said the voice in the confrontation video belonged to him, not Nolan. Javon Williams saw Nolan on the island and said phones were left aboard a boat. Christine and Elmore said Nolan would not remain without dependable transportation. None of these differences alone proves dishonesty. The question is, which account matches authenticated timestamps and communications? The Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office completed its examination of Nolan, but the autopsy reportedly remained confidential while investigators continued working. Completion means the report may be finished. It does not mean the findings have been released to Nolan's family or the public. Authorities said the investigation was expected to go before a grand jury, which reviews evidence and considers possible charges. It is not a trial, and its involvement does not prove that Nolan's death was a homicide. No unreleased cause or manner should be treated as established. Yet while the authentic report remained restricted, an imitation appeared online. Mississippi Department of Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tyndall said a toxicology document circulating online was fraudulent, as people reported. Authorities warned that artificial intelligence and misinformation can be used to imitate official records. A fabricated report can distort public understanding, harm witnesses, and obstruct the family's pursuit of dependable answers. Screenshots and posts cannot replace an authenticated laboratory report. Any toxicology claim requires verifiable provenance, original agency confirmation, authorized signatures, testing dates, case and laboratory identifiers, and an unbroken record showing where the document originated and who lawfully released it. Nolan's family commissioned forensic pathologist Dr. Roger Mitchell to conduct an independent examination. His finding left the cause and manner of death undetermined. That classification does not confirm homicide, but it does not prevent investigators from examining other contributing factors. Questions remained about the completeness and interpretation of evidence available to Mitchell. Environmental exposure and the passage of time could restrict what forensic science can establish. A stronger assessment requires genuine toxicology results, complete medical records, analysis of water and environmental conditions, official autopsy documentation, and a reliable account of Nolan's final movements. Preliminary observations must not become final conclusions. Christine Wells Wansley pursued legal access to technology and social media records that could clarify the timeline. Investigators must reconcile Nolan's phone activity and location history with relevant witnesses' records, original photographs and videos, vessel GPS data, sea tow communications, marine traffic records, messages, and lawfully recoverable deleted content. Metadata can indicate when and where an original file was created, although it must also be authenticated. GPS may place a vessel at a location, but it cannot identify everyone aboard or reveal what passengers knew. Reports that footage shows Nolan absent from the distressed boat must be tested against original source files. Edited compilations, reposts, and AI-generated media are not reliable substitutes. Reports indicate that some individuals participated in voice stress examinations. Voice stress analysis studies vocal patterns. A conventional polygraph records physiological responses during questioning. Neither independently determines guilt or innocence. Stress, question wording, interview conditions, recording quality, software settings, and examiner interpretation can influence results. These tests should be treated as investigative leads, not courtroom proof. Authenticated messages, reliable timestamps, vessel GPS, forensic findings, original recordings, and witness accounts supported by independent evidence carry greater value when investigators reconstruct Nolan's final hours. Attorney Ben Crump represents Nolan's family. Reverend Al Sharpton and the Knock called for transparency and a complete investigation. Tyler Perry reportedly covered funeral expenses, while Colin Kaepernick reportedly funded the independent examination. Public figures supported a reward, but verified terms and conditions govern any claim. The family and its advocates raised concerns about racial bias. Those concerns are not proven findings. Attention now turns toward the anticipated grand jury review. Unresolved evidence created a vacuum, and competing narratives filled it. Public questions about timelines, recordings, and official findings remain legitimate. Harassment, invented documents, threats, and unsupported accusations do not. Michelle Francine Edwards and Joseph Alfredo Vasquez Dumartz were reportedly charged in separate cases involving alleged threats. Edwards allegedly targeted Mississippi government offices. Dumartz allegedly targeted a judge connected through family to the boat trip. Other threats were reportedly directed toward officials, Nolan's family, witnesses, and associated individuals. These charges do not establish what happened to Nolan. Intimidation can silence witnesses, consume investigative resources, and weaken public confidence in legitimate findings. Bart Edmiston Jr.'s documented role remained limited to reportedly helping the distressed boat. Bart Edmiston Sr. and attorney Russell Latino responded to online accusations with a reported cease and desist action. Their objections addressed allegedly edited recordings, threatening messages, unsupported labels, and misinformation presented as fact. Repetition cannot convert an allegation into evidence. Nolan's family has every right to demand answers, while uncharged individuals retain the right to fairness. Social media can raise questions, but it cannot lawfully or reliably convict anyone. If prosecutors present the case to a grand jury, jurors could examine witness testimony, forensic findings, digital records, audio evidence, and investigative reports. The evidentiary record may include work from the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office, Coroner Bruce Lind, Sheriff John Ledbetter and his investigators, CETO, and the family's legal and independent forensic team. Grand jury proceedings are generally confidential. Unless the legal process advances, there is no courtroom verdict, no sentencing, and no proven homicide. Only evidence awaiting careful formal evaluation. The decisive gaps are clear: official cause and manner conclusions, authenticated toxicology findings, professional examination of the original CETO audio, complete phone and social media records, original photographs, videos, and metadata, additional first-hand witness interviews, and one unified timeline comparing Nolan's last confirmed sighting with every relevant vessel's movement. Investigators should classify every point as confirmed, reported, disputed, or unresolved. The strongest conclusion cannot depend on one recording, witness, or document. It must carefully explain the physical, digital, medical, environmental, and testimonial evidence together, without forcing uncertain facts into a preferred narrative. One fact remains: Nolan went to Horn Island, but did not return with his original group. His final movements and medical explanation remain unresolved. His family deserves an account supported by evidence. Witnesses and named individuals must not be treated as guilty without proof. Can authenticated audio, GPS, phone, video, forensic, and witness evidence establish what happened after Nolan was reliably seen? Subscribe to True Crime News Report and activate notifications for verified updates. Comment respectfully on evidence investigators should prioritize. Then share this documentary so factual reporting travels farther than misinformation.